I love movies. Gosh, I love movies. I love watching them, and I love
watching them properly. Recently, there has been talk about the decline of cinemas and the rise of streaming and direct-to-home movies. Although I thank Netflix particularly for their contribution in cinema, funding the Scorcese epic The Irishman to the action tour de force Extraction, I am deeply concerned about a possible death of cinema. In this video, I'm going to talk about why I believe cinemas should never die, why it is unlikely that they will, and maybe I'll convince you just how you can watch movies a bit better for your own enjoyment. So, what is a movie? Well, it's a video, right? A bunch of images, usually 24 per second, accompanied by an audio track. The images and sequence can form consistent shots, which are then cut together into scenes, which become sequences, which form the movie. The audio can be interpreted as dialogue, sound effects, and music. But isn't a movie way more than that? I believe a movie is the experience that is induced by such a video, that fuels psychological processes within your brain. Effective films take advantage of this. They can make you feel tension, happiness, awe, sadness, and the list goes on. The surface of visual and audio information is unwrapped, where there is a beating heart beneath, a story, with characters and themes, human and personal, no matter the genre or the setting. Every filmmaker aspires to create an experience in a movie that often supplements the story. Christopher McQuarrie, for example, aspired to simply create an intense and thrilling experience in Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation and Fallout, with tidbits of story substance throughout. Peter Jackson made the Lord of the Rings trilogy not only worthy of the story from the books, but an epic and emotional journey. Star Wars has had its different directors, interpretations and stories, but all of the movies intend to be fun space operas. Now, I don't want to delve into the debate of DVDs versus streaming. I love my DVDs, with my MCU and Star Wars collections and my Lord of the Rings and Matrix box sets sat proudly on my DVD shelf. But I do stream most movies I don't intend to rewatch or collect on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Disney+. Yes, I miss going to the local Blockbuster every Saturday to rent a movie. DVDs can scratch and digital movies can buffer. There is little difference between physical and digital media in terms of the cinematic experience. But I am still very obsessive and compulsive about the way I watch movies. This may be partially due to obsessive compulsive symptoms I deal with, but is also due to me wanting the most out of every single cinematic experience. In the cinema, I need to do very little work to do this. At home, I almost always move the sofa forward, turn off all the lights, put my phone on silent, close all the blinds, and prefer to start during or after sunset so the room is dark. I only ever eat popcorn or drink Coke out of a can during a movie, and even then, I've developed a skill of eating popcorn without looking at the bag, as silently as possible, without even thinking about it. So why do I do this? Why do I try to make my home viewing experience as close to the cinema as possible? Is it for sentimentality? For fun? No. Immersion. Valentin Tivish of Technical University Delft and Ed Estan and Dylan Molinar at the University of Amsterdam conducted an experiment in 2010. Their aim was to explore the effect of immersion on emotional responses of film viewers. They presented a movie either in a 3D viewing condition, which was not immersive at all, or in a cave condition, which is highly immersive and similar to VR. They also tested genre categorization, which is irrelevant to this topic. Admittedly, the movie was really just a 20-second 3D animation of one block chasing another, but it's a microcosm, it still goes. They had the viewers rate their emotions. Fictional world emotions such as sadness when a hero dies, which particularly stem from the story, and artifact emotions such as awe at an action scene, which usually stem more so from the director's crafting of said experience. The idea of fictional world and artifact emotions originate from Ed Estan, a PhD Doctor of Psychology at the University of Copenhagen. The report makes it clear what it means by immersion. One of the things it is determined by is by exclusion, the degree to which environmental influences are excluded from the experience. So for example, hearing cars outside your window or having the lights on to see the rest of the room clearly reduces immersion. In the cinema, this can be people talking or their phone screen sticking out like a sore thumb in a black auditorium. Other factors include the number of sensory modalities addressed. For a movie, this is typically only sight and hearing, although of course muting the movie will obviously reduce immersion as well as the basic understanding of the movie. So what about 4DX? Doesn't that add sensory modalities? Well, I've never been in a 4DX cinema, but I know people who have, and they say that it did boost their experience mainly during action scenes, but water sprays, seat shaking and scents are not going to be as mimetic as the senses felt in the real or fictional world, so they actually pull the audience out of the movie because the gimmick reminds them that they are being given an artificial experience. Surround effect, such as panoramic width of sensory impressions. The best example of this is IMAX, of which the largest of presentations takes up your whole peripheral vision. This is similar to exclusion of other environmental influences. An experiment by the University of Mainz in 2014 agrees. The findings indicate that the larger the screen, the greater the extent to which the viewers are drawn into a movie. Another instance of this is surround sound. In many IMAX and Dolby screens, surround sound is also customized, with different sound effects and dialogue coming from different directions. Aspect ratio is also a factor of said surround effect. CinemaScope facilitated widescreen movies at ratios such as 2.39 to 1, which is popular for many modern movies, or 2.76 to 1, used in Ben-Hur. Widescreen made the cinema more immersive by taking up more of the peripheral vision on the sides. IMAX then does this on the top and bottom, with the tallest aspect ratios of movies such as Dunkirk being 1.43 to 1. Unlike Screen X, which involves side screens for particular scenes, IMAX is taken very seriously and is particularly endorsed by filmmakers such as Christopher Nolan. He says the immersive quality of the image is second to none. Nolan claims he tries to create the sensation of virtual reality without the goggles. This is why Dunkirk, a movie that emphasises spectacle and a tense experience more than anything, was a much greater movie when I saw it in the cinema. Vividness, such as display resolution, is the final factor stated. Watching a compressed and or low quality movie, for example, will of course reduce immersion. Being able to see the full range of colours and light stops intended by the filmmakers also counts too in a way. A higher frame rate may also count, but is a tricky one. While The Hobbit's 48 frames per second, for example, may be more realistic and more vivid in theory, it can make the movie seem more artificial. The effect of motion smoothing, or video interpolation, which increases frames per second on TVs, is known as the soap opera effect, which Tom Cruise famously made a video speaking out against. While the report admits that at face value, artifact emotions may be hindered by immersion, it rejects this hypothesis by pointing out that artifact emotions rely on fictional world emotions. The report cites Lang, Bradley and Cuthbert from 1997, positing that proximity is a factor. In essence, this means that immersed viewers feel close to the events. 3D cinema can be dismissed as a silly gimmick, and while I do not actively choose 3D viewings, my local IMAX is in 3D, and I can remember moments when the 3D element certainly heightened my response to the movie's fictional world as well as artifact emotions. The conclusion to this experiment, therefore, is that higher immersion led to an increase in intensity of all viewer emotions. One instance given is that when a rapidly approaching object, as in our chase movie, is presented with higher immersion, the threat adhering to it will be more pronounced, enhancing the viewer's fear response. Applying this to an effective movie, immersion means that the audience is much likely to feel surprise, fascination, and sadness, for example. A similar study in 2014 by Brendan Looney of the Dun Laoghaire Institute of Art, Design and Technology, Eilis Hennessy of University College Dublin, and Katalin Balint of Utrecht University had 106 viewers watch 4 short movies on a screen with either the light on or off. They showed a tragic drama, a comedy, a horror movie, and an action movie. The results again concluded that immersion has a positive impact on the psychological reaction to a movie, which is measured here by HRV, the Heart Rate Variability Change Score. That said, the conclusion also stressed that viewers can cognitively adjust their mental resources to the environment so as to maximize engagement. This means that focusing on the film instead of the outside world, thinking about the characters and the story and engaging with the movie improves the experience. Nothing in a movie is worth missing. I've heard of an app called RunP that tells you what scenes in a movie you can miss. Firstly, get off your phone, you're spoiling it for everyone else. Secondly, it's easy to pee before a movie, and you'd have to be watching a really bloody long movie to need to pee for things you drink during it. Say you're at home, it's not ideal because it lifts the immersion, but you can pause the movie. If a scene in a movie is truly unnecessary and skippable, it's probably not a movie worth watching. Even a dialogue scene in a movie you're watching for the action will help elevate said action, by, for example, creating stakes and character investment. I mentioned how pausing a movie is not ideal. How, you may ask? Even if you're not missing anything and when you are watching you are properly immersed? Yes, unfortunately, because as soon as you pause the movie, the immersion is lifted by the environment you've again become aware of. In addition, it drops the pacing up. This is why I'm particularly adamant about watching a movie on a TV with commercial breaks. Many movies, could be horrors, dramas or thrillers, involve tension and conflict that builds and builds until the climax. Stopping a movie in the middle has a negative impact on feelings that come with a movie's progression, such as tension or dread, because the audience is given a break from these feelings when the filmmaker did not intend. The filmmakers control when the audience can feel a catharsis of emotion, and so an early catharsis rids the rest of the movie of much of its impact. Ultimately, the perfect movie viewing does not exist. Your mind is always going to be, even on a minuscule level, somewhere else. You blink, missing some frames every now and then. There will always be space around the frame you can see, even if it is pitch black. But, in the end, why not make every cinematic experience the best it can be? Of course, it would be impractical and expensive for me to visit the BFI IMAX for every new release, let alone every movie I watch at home. And I can't watch every movie in a local cinema either. This saddens me. Every time I watch a movie at home, I wish I could watch it on a big screen, and in a local cinema, I wish I could watch it on a bigger screen, and then in my IMAX, I wish I could watch it on the biggest screen. But, in a way, this reality makes the movie theatre more cherishable, more valuable. If people want to watch a movie at home, distracted, unimmersed, unengaged, I do not care. It is only to the detriment of their enjoyment of this movie. But I hope and believe that the general audience recognises the astounding difference between this and a true cinematic experience, that there will always be demand for cinema tickets. This pandemic has caused streaming to skyrocket, but people therefore now realise how truly special the movie theatre is. I have true faith that cinemas will continue to be a common and potent staple of the entertainment industry for many, many years to come.